Hi guys, this is gsnhome.com and I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy A41. I've already reviewed the Galaxy A51, A71, and now we go a step lower, still keeping some of the parts and the mid-range approach of the A51. Now last year I called the A40 dangerously close to the A50, and let's see if that also applies to the A41. Now the phone is priced at around $200. It's a mid-range device with a triple camera, and it's probably the first Samsung phone with a MediaTek CPU that I'm testing. Usually they use Snapdragon or Exynos CPUs. Now, as you probably guessed already, it's made of plastic, but the good kind of plastic. It's pretty shiny and it catches the light in a sort of rainbow. Also has some prisms at the back side. Now the build is, I would say, decent for a plastic phone, even though the buttons are a bit on the noisy side. You can definitely hear their click and they feel a bit plasticky. However, the biggest advantage of the phone is the fact that it's very compact at 6.1 inch in diagonal. It also has pretty narrow bezels, and the dimensions favor it, 7.9mm in thickness and a weight of 152 grams. It's pretty comfy to use with a single hand like I'm doing right now, and I'm pretty happy with the experience. Mind you that the plastic build may also bring some scratches and smudges on the back side. A case would be necessary. And also I appreciate that the phone is not slippery. Now we go a bit further and we find here the screen, 6.1 inch, and in spite of the low price we still get a Super AMOLED, vividly colored, and 2400 over 1080 pixels, that's the resolution. Once again, narrow bezels and a small notch here at the top side shaped like the letter U for the selfie camera. Now the viewing experience is going to be portrayed like this. We have a special test video which we always rely on to show you the goods. Okay, so we fill the screen, and as you can see, the notch is not bothersome on that side. It's a Super AMOLED, so as expected, we get here very vivid colors, a pretty bright and crisp experience, wide view angles, and even in the full sun of June and July, we had zero problems with the contrast. Okay, so nifty contrast, brightness, view angles, deep blacks, what have you. And now we're going to go to our sister site and view the measurements. The screen has pentile matrix pixel arrangement, and when it comes to the brightness test, we achieved 485 lux units, which is definitely a compliment for the phone. It beats the Galaxy A40, well, by only 2 lux, so it's basically about on par. It also beats the Huawei P40 Lite, Galaxy A51 and Galaxy A80. It stays below other phones like the Galaxy A70 and A71, and also the Motorola One Zoom if you want to get into a similar price range. Okay, so there's that, and if you want to perform tweaks on the screen, you're probably going to want to use the settings application, which is here, and it offers you a special section: display with brightness, adaptive brightness, blue light filter, screen modes, vivid, natural, white balance slider, advanced settings, and more. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the screen experience so far. Bright, crisp and colorful. And now we're going to go to other aspects. So I want to talk about the CPU. It's an atypical experience that Samsung is using a MediaTek processor. It's a MediaTek Helio P65, 12nm CPU, octa-core, 2 GHz, and I have to say that this processor comes here accompanied by 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. Let's check that out. So because we have a special app installed, CPU-Z, and you can see all the specs. You can see here the CPU, you can see the 4 GB of RAM, and also the 64 GB of storage, of which about 50 gigs are available. Micro SD card slot available as well, and believe it or not, the phone has much less lag than expected. I know people have been saying that, oh my god, Samsung with MediaTek, not a good idea. Actually, the A41 has less lag than the A51. Believe it or not. And now let's go to the benchmarks. I had pretty small expectations here, so let's see what panned out. So we start with Antutu 8. As you can see, we're just beating the Motorola One Macro by about 1000 points, also the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7. So we're within the range of a typical mid-range phone. And we also beat the Nokia 6.2. At the same time, we score below the Motorola Moto G8 Power and the Nokia 7.2. This is Antutu 8. We go to Geekbench 5 in the multi-core subtest, and here we are. just a smidge above Cat S52, well, more than a smidge, and above the TCL Plex. We also beat the AllView Solix 7 Pro, but we scored below the Nokia 6.2, Galaxy A51 and Moto G8 Power. Okay, so now let's see how we did in the GPU test. So when it comes to the GPU, we got 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1, and this is the result, 1125. So this means we beat the Xiaomi Mi A3 and Moto G8 Power, but we scored below the Xiaomi Mi A2 and the Motorola One Macro. The core to remember here is that we are gravitating around the results of a phone with a Snapdragon 665 or even Snapdragon 670 processor inside. Sometimes above it, sometimes below it. So around it is the core idea. We achieved 31.4 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, that's the temperature test, and 37.1 degrees Celsius in gaming. So there's no overheating here, definitely. Now the battery sounds pretty decent at 3500 mAh. It's a lithium polymer unit. It charges us 15 watts. And we also have tests for it. When it comes to the video playback, we achieved 13 hours and 23 minutes, which is actually not bad. It's above the predecessor, the Galaxy A40, and above the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8T. It's below the Motorola One Zoom and the Huawei P40 Lite, also the Galaxy A50. Okay, so when it comes to continuous usage, we achieved 12 hours and 53 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And let's see which other phones we managed to beat here. Okay, so with this value, we beat the Huawei P40 Lite, yet again, Galaxy A51, and quite a few other handsets, including Motorola One Zoom. At the same time, with this value, we scored below the Cat S61, the Xiaomi Mi A3, and in the same vein and around the same price tag, let's maybe name the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M1. So in the end, a pretty solid result. In both tests, we're gravitating around 13 hours. Not bad. The charging is a bit of a letdown at 1 hour and 46 minutes, but after 30 minutes you're at 32% and after 1 hour you're 68%, so you should be good to go for about, let's say, a working day with an hour of charge. So the battery is pretty satisfying. Let's talk about the acoustics. So first of all, there's a microphone at the top, there's an audio jack at the bottom, and also a singular speaker right about here. This is the only one. You are not going to cover it in landscape mode, so that's good news. And let's actually go listen to some tunes on this handset. Okay, so we're going to do some copyright-free music. Here we go. And enjoy some tunes. Okay, so the idea to take home here is the fact that the speaker is quite generous in volume. The bass is not that impressive, so not much of a bass here. Pretty nice treble, high notes, and especially the guitar was well rendered acoustically. So nice with guitar play, with trebles and high notes. If you want to do some tweaks, there's Dolby Atmos, 6 genres and 9 custom channels. All in all, a pretty satisfying experience for a singular speaker. And we also have some tests with a special decibel meter, which we have here. Okay, tests and volume power, and as you can see, we achieved 86.2 decibels at the bottom speaker when using an acoustic sample, which is a pretty solid result, above Nokia 6.1, above Galaxy A71, below the Xiaomi Redmi Note 80 and LG Q7. When it comes to multimedia and gaming, I'm actually blown away by the 101.5 decibels achieved by the phone. Pretty impressive and above quite a few phones. Nokia 6.2, Xiaomi Mi A3, Redmi Note 9 Pro, but below the Galaxy A51 and below the Galaxy A40. I guess we're done with the speaker, time to talk about the camera. So first things first, here in the top notch, we have the 25 megapixel selfie shooter with Full HD video capture. At the back side, we find a triple camera array with the LED flash here, and we got a 48 megapixel main camera with PDAF, face detection autofocus, 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and 5 megapixel bokeh camera. There is no 4K video capture, in case you're wondering. We do have some AI magic. We have a pro mode, we have a live focus for the bokeh, AR zone, and that's about it. And I also have quite a few snaps, and I think it's time to talk about the gallery. Okay, so first things first. I remember the Galaxy A40 being dangerously close to the Galaxy A50, and guess what? The same can be said about the A41, dangerously close to the A51. So, a regular shot, an ultra-wide shot, it feels like it deforms the edges a little bit, and also the colors. Okay, we keep going. I feel that there's a bit of an oversaturation here, especially in the sky area and also vegetation at times. However, not as bad as you would expect on a $200 phone. It becomes more apparent in the ultra-wide photos rather than the regular ones. This sky is better, this one is deformed compared to what I saw in real life. Of course, the sky may appear white sometimes, as it happens here, thanks to the overexposure on account of the powerful sun. Okay, so I'm going to skip some of the selfies because I consider the selfies with glasses on irrelevant. Let's go to those without glasses. Now, the first part of the selfie gallery was a bit underwhelming because of the fact that I did not like the focus of the camera on the face, which was a problem last year on the Galaxy A40 and A50. These cameras usually have fixed focus and you have to guess the ideal distance in order to get a proper selfie. As time passed, as we took on the gallery, we achieved better results. I'm talking about the hair texture, the skin texture, the beard texture, and even the color of the face was pretty okay. So all in all, it seems like it passes the selfie test. Okay, now the ultra-wide didn't blow me away that much, I have to admit that, so the fact that it deformed the colors was a bit of a bummer. But in general, the colors were okay with the main camera, and the details were also rather satisfying. And even in this case, not bad colors on the ultra-wide camera capture. It depends on the amount of sun you have in the area where you're shooting. Okay, another example of shot, nice red, nice blue and nice yellow. So when it comes to objects in the park made of plastic, the texture is pretty well represented and the colors are well rendered. The amount of details is satisfying. You should be able to pull off a full 48 megapixel shot if you really want details. In general, you should be happy with the 12 megapixel camera. Even more selfies here, and I started using the bokeh effect. You can change the focus afterwards. What it does is accentuates the texture of the beard, of the skin pores and the hair, and makes the selfie more legit. It tends to cut out pretty okay my face from the background, even though if you're wearing glasses and headphones, some parts may be cut weird. Okay, bokeh applied to the statue in the park, I would say it's decent, but I've seen better even on mid-range phones. One of the things that I like the most here, the texture of the water. I will keep saying the word texture because that's an area where the camera shines, catches pretty nice texture. Okay, and of course some memorable close-ups of flowers, definitely, and the colors are pretty true to life in this case. Okay, several more shots, even more toys in the park, and bokeh effects. So all in all, I'm pretty impressed by this. Not that far from the Galaxy A51, if I'm being totally honest, and a bit of a pleasant surprise. Minus the ultra-wide camera, which sometimes deforms the shots and lacks details on the sides. Okay, so this has been daytime photographing. Let's go to the low light, which honestly, once again, a surprise for a $200 phone. Of course, ultra-wide is underwhelming. It blows up the light sources too much, but all in all, the quantity of light is sufficient and satisfying, the quantity of light caught during the night. I like the texture of the buildings, the clarity. There's much less noise than I expected. Of course, don't go expecting some crazy result like a flagship, but all in all, I'm going to take this. It's a keeper, definitely, among the mid-range phones out there. These are usable shots, which I remember the Galaxy A40 and A50 did not produce. Those were not usable nighttime shots. These are, and that says it all. Okay, so without complications, I'm going to skip to another application in order to talk about the video capture. So we have 10 videos. I'm going to try and keep things pretty simple. Now, the photos had me satisfied. Let's see the videos. One of the things that was solid throughout the capture experience was the microphone. So if you're let down by the image at any point, the microphone definitely makes it up. Now, the video capture was overexposed, the sun was too intense and fried some of the colors we got here. The sky is almost white. The focus was actually pretty good in moving objects, and let's see more colorful instances. Once again, the camera does not capture 4K, would have been nice. The stabilization is definitely lacking, but the colors are pretty spot on. Not the vegetation, not the sky, just the toys in the park. And texture is also important. Shockingly enough, even the zoom was satisfying. Now, this is the selfie video, which is actually not that bad. But just like the Galaxy A51 and A71, it has an exaggerated contrast of the face, probably because of the sun. Okay, and then we also have a stabilization test, which not the best in the world, also not the worst in the world. Definitely lacking stabilization, not memorable, but I've seen worse on $200 phones, to be honest. Definitely a bump up from the Galaxy A40. I would say slightly below the Galaxy A50, maybe only slightly, and that's the only conclusion. Okay, so this is daytime capture, which also includes a focus test, which, as you can see, passed with flying colors. Focus on a close-up, focus on the distance, and satisfying. Now, of course, low light at this price is very hard to deliver a decent low light video. Things are shaky, street light halos are big, but the quantity of light and the clarity are a bit above expectation. If you go back to the Galaxy A50 and A40, there were definitely bummers when it comes to the low light capture. This is actually usable. So in the end, not that bad. Okay, so we're done with the camera. Finally, a pleasant surprise together with a CPU that didn't deliver lag, and it's time to address the connectivity. So this is a dual SIM phone with dual nano SIM card slots. You have one audio jack at the bottom. You also have Wi-Fi dual band, 4G LTE, Bluetooth 5.0, and as well as GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, BDS, and NFC. And of course, USB-C port at the bottom. The calls were, I would say, reasonably loud and clear, and here you can see the results we were able to achieve in the Ookla speed test application. Now we're dealing with up to 111 megapsecond download on 4G and 42.8 megapsecond upload. Pretty fine by my book. On Wi-Fi, 223 in download and 24.8 in upload. Once again, results satisfying for a $200 phone. On the OS and UI side, if you've seen my review of the Galaxy A51 and A71, copy-paste it here. So it's the exact same experience. Samsung Bixby aggregator has been replaced by Samsung Daily. We still have Bixby, but I don't find it as useful as Cortana, Siri, or Google Assistant or Alexa. If you pinch the screen, you're going to see some of the widgets. Minimalistic, transparent, wallpaper, themes, and home screen settings. Multitasking goes down like this, a series of cards, and you also have the option of split screen view and pop-up view. Okay, we also have a dark mode, and we have this area here for notifications and quick settings. There's link to Windows, there's Dolby Atmos, there's the edge lighting, and quick share, which is a new feature that came this year. Well, aside from that, you already know the One UI experience. It's focused on using the phone with a single hand, which I've been doing for the biggest part of the review. On the security front, the fingerprint scanner is embedded in the screen, and while it's pretty precise and accurate, it's not that fast, but once again, I've seen worse. Time to look quickly in the settings department. You're going to find useful stuff related to connectivity, sounds, display, biometrics, advanced features like motions and gestures, one-hand mode, digital well-being, and that's that. The pre-installed apps list, well, useful stuff. There's the Galaxy Store from Samsung, Samsung members. There's Smart Things, there's Samsung Health, there's the AR Zone, Spotify, Netflix, Facebook, YouTube Music, Samsung Notes, and a game launcher, of course. So that's about it in a nutshell. Satisfying software, surprised by the lack of lag, and it's time for the verdict. Okay, so as I'm giving you the verdict, I'm also going to be playing a bit here. This is Real Racing 3. I'm running it on the Galaxy A41. I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit. Don't worry, there's no music here. So on the pro side of this handset, we're dealing here with a cute backside. The phone looks pretty cute, seen from the backside. And it's a compact device. It's definitely not big. It doesn't suffer from lag. it has a pretty solid speaker at the bottom side. The camera impressed me, mostly in photo rather than video. Fast connectivity, and also I like the One UI experience, and the connectivity was once again rather fast, and of course good battery. Did not forget the good battery. Those are the pros. On the con side, I would say definitely the ultra-wide camera. Expected a bit more from it, especially those color deformations were a bit underwhelming. There's that plasticky feel of the side buttons, there's the poor stabilization, the lack of bass for the speaker, and the long charging as cons, and the mixed selfie experience, lack of 4K, the scratchy back, it's pretty easy to scratch, and sometimes the slow fingerprint scanner. Okay, so there's that. In spite of what I mentioned before, there's not a huge drawback here, so I fail to see the huge drawback. There's no reason not to buy this phone, but there are some reasons to replace your option of purchasing the Galaxy A51 with the Galaxy A41. That's something important to remember. So it's the second biggest surprise I've had over the past year from a MediaTek based phone. Shows me that the MediaTek CPU is nothing to laugh about, and this phone is actually not that bad. The Galaxy A40 from last year was a hybrid solution if you didn't have the money for the A50. The A41 actually is an alternative to the A51. So not only if you don't have the money, but if you want another option, much less lag than the A51. So this is it from gsno.com. Hope you enjoyed this review. We had gaming, we had videos, music, everything. Hope it's pretty clear to you that we're dealing with a solid phone. Don't be scared of MediaTek. I wasn't, and it's definitely good for multimedia, some minor gaming and social networking, plus the pics, the good pics. This is it from us. Bye bye.